We knew a storm was coming. We knew the storm was going to be serious. But I think all of us felt that, like storms past, that New Orleans would be spared the brunt of it, that we wouldn't suffer any greater damage than we'd suffered previously from storms, including Betsy, but we wouldn't suffer anything greater than that. And leaving, we would be back in short order. But by fluke, I was not in the building for the storm. I intended to stay, like a lot of others who did stay, because of course we've used the building as a refuge. But I didn't stay. But a lot of our employees, judges, stayed, and of course were stranded for 5 or 6 days in the building after the storm.
Employees, sheriff's deputies, we would come to the building. It's safe, it's secure, it's a strong building, and we just would come here and ride out the storm and go home within a day or two. Unfortunately, with this time, we weren't able to go home within a day or two. I ended up spending 5 days here.
Traditionally, is when a storm's coming, my friends and relatives come to my house and camp out because they know they're going to be safe. This time, the day before the storm, one of the news announcers or weathermen were talking about the possibility of the storm hitting and causing the river to actually go backwards. And I live close to the Mississippi River. So I got a little frightened about a lot of people that were coming to my house, particularly some old people, that I'd be caught there with a lot of people. So I suggested that we tell them that it's a hurricane party, and we're going to the criminal court building. And my wife made a big bowl of gumbo, and we brought the gumbo here, and we thought we'd stay a night, and maybe the next day we would leave. And it wound up being a 5-day stay.
It was scary, I would say probably halfway through, when everyone came prepared for a couple of days, and food wasn't as plentiful, and neither was water, and helicopters were hovering overhead and dropping food and water into the water outside.
One of the big things we ran out of food. We went down to the blind man stand and took everything that was edible out of the blind man stand so that we could use that, and we gave that to everybody that was here. We went and rifled desks, find cookies and candy or anything that was edible to use that. And what really became really acute was when I noticed we were running out of water. It got real hectic. One of the things happened, people floated into the building. We had everything pretty much under control, and then as people were stranded, and they'd float in on rafts, and people would just come up in the raft and come into the building. They had a bunch of ladies out here that had a hot tub. I think it came from the motel down the street, and they were paddling in the hot tub, and they were selling beer out of the hot tub.
We had, portable radios so we could hear what was going on. There was no cell phones or nothing that worked. The sheriff's deputies were here. They knew a lot of what was going on in the area, so we would talk to them, find out what was going on. I think the hardest thing was, because I lived in Lakeview, and hearing the announcement that, the levee had broke, or breached, as they called it, at that time. On the 5th day, they came in by boat. They took us out by boat and put us on a helicopter and took us to the airport.
I was happy to get out of here. They took me out and transported me down to where the library was, and it was my wife and I took my dog. And I wound up being picked up by the DA in Houma, who saw me. I was out there just waiting to get into another boat that were taking me to, and the boat didn't show up. It was raining. And the district attorney of Houma, Joe Waits, he had an amphibious vessel, a boat-like, and he saw me and he hollered at me, "Come on to Houma." So we jumped out and waded over to the boat and went to Houma with him in his vessel, stayed at his house in Houma, and then left there and went to my wife's people's place outside of New Iberia and caught another storm there.
when I saw the pictures after the levee breaks, I saw the pictures of the water surrounding the building. And at that point, I knew that I had to get back to New Orleans to see how, in fact, we were going to operate the court. I came back the Thursday after the storm, and I got on a boat with the Texas Wildlife and Fisheries people who brought me back to the building. I came back to our building the Wednesday a week later with Liz Stogner and Rob Kasich, two judicial administrators, and Doss, our computer tech guy. And at that point, we retrieved from the building what we thought was necessary to operate the court: servers, computers, all the documents we could possibly think that we would need, checks, everything that we could possibly conceive of that we would need to run the court in exile. And then from there, we ended in Baton Rouge at Southern University in Baton Rouge, and we set up our operation there. And from that, this is now Thursday, a week after the storm. And from that point forward, we operated out of Southern Baton Rouge until right after Christmas, and when we moved back to New Orleans. It was just a chaotic situation, trying to figure out how we would operate our court. How could we find people? How could we find that people, including employees? How we could locate defendants who were scattered all over the place, but even those scattered all over the place on bond, but also scattered all over the place in jail facilities. At one point, we had defendants in 38 different facilities in the state of Louisiana and in Florida, and we didn't know who was in what facility, and so we had to determine that piece. But then, as we were doing that, there were ongoing problems in New Orleans in terms of individuals being arrested, and so we had to deal with that. And we had, at one point, we had a court operations going on at the bus station in New Orleans, bus station, train station in New Orleans. We also had court operations at a prison in St. Gabriel, Louisiana, Hunt Correctional Institute. We also had court operations physically at Southern and at the 19th Judicial District Court in Baton Rouge, and in Alexandria, and in North Louisiana. On one particular day, we were operating, holding court in all of those places, literally at the same time. And by the middle of January, we were operating out of 2 courtrooms in the federal courthouse, rotating 4 judges a day out of those 2 courtrooms, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, which was just at best a Band-Aid on a system, trying to keep the system afloat until we could get our bearings more than anything else and figure out really how we were going to run the system. At the time of the storm, this building is a fortress. This building can weather basically any kind of thing unless it's a direct hit by a bomb. It is that strong. Katrina itself did nothing to this building. What destroyed us was the levee break and the resulting flood of water that came as a result of the levee break. That's what destroyed our building. And it destroyed it because we ended up with, at one point, about 8 feet of water on the ground. We have, and I know for those who may listen or see this, it's going to sound strange since we live below sea level, but we had all of our mechanical equipment on the ground. And as a result, the mechanical equipment was destroyed. And that by the water destroyed it. And as a result of that, we could not operate the building. Also on the ground was closed records, evidence was on the ground. And after the storm, there was this great hue and cry as to the loss or the destruction of the evidence in this building. That, thank God, was greatly exaggerated. We hired a company that was able to remediate about 93% of everything that was on the ground. We had originally thought we'd be back in our building in November, and we ended up not being back in this building even in a piecemeal fashion until June. We only occupy, as we speak in this building today, we only occupy about 1/4 of the building. The rest of the building is basically not usable because we don't have power to it. And the areas we have power to, that is the courtrooms we use, there is only air conditioning in the large courtroom itself. We have no air conditioning in the ancillary offices. But we trudge on, and hopefully by September or October, we'll be back in our building in a permanent fashion.
The system as a whole has been not mortally damaged, but pretty well damaged. Even today, we're 11 months since the hurricane, and this is true of every docket. You either don't have a witness and you cannot locate them, and you don't know where in the country they may be.
One of the horrors that came as a result of Katrina was the fact that we could not find people who were incarcerated before the storm and who should be out of jail. And the thing that we feared, two things we feared the most. One was having people stay in jail longer than they were supposed to, but then on the other side of that, having people released from jail who shouldn't be released from jail. And so that was just a double problem that we had. And on a level still have to this day. We have had just an incredible time of it, locating people because of the way they were evacuated. The sheriff took out of here almost 8,000 individuals who were incarcerated in New Orleans. The problem with that number is that they included people from Jefferson Parish, St. Bernard Parish, Plaquemines Parish, and they got all jumbled up. They also included federal inmates. They included municipal people, that is, people charged with the most minor offenses punishable by up to a maximum of 90 days in jail. They included traffic offenders, individuals who at the time of Katrina arrested for the most minor of traffic offenses. And they were all, again, just jumbled up into one, in essence, one big pile. And it became incumbent upon us to unstack them, so to speak. And that's been, we have gone all over the state of Louisiana trying to be sure that we have no one in jail who's not supposed to be in jail, and to be sure that the individuals who are in jail stay in jail, who's supposed to be in jail, stay in jail. We had to give people, again, the assurance that that the justice system, from the police through the courts, was able and capable of functioning, and was in fact functioning. We have experienced something that no other justice system in the history of this country has had to endure. We have had to reinvent the criminal justice system, reinvent it in the sense of how we operate. We have had to change fundamentally how we operate.
It's frustrating to a point. You come to court wanting to work. You want to see the conclusion to things that you have before you. You have a docket full of cases. And when you can't move anything, you can't bring it to a conclusion. The defendant's not available. You can't find a defendant. You got a violent crime here, and you can't find a witness. The evidence is not here in the case. And you go day after day not being able to resolve and do the job that you did prior to Katrina. So prior to Katrina, this would have been a thing that may happen occasionally. Now it happens routinely every day. And it does do something to your psychic when you can't get things done. It's really frustrating.
It's been a very emotional roller coaster. losing my home. But a lot of seeing the devastation that it did to the basement of our building. We love our building, all of us here, and it's taken its toll, and I think that's why I'm taking my retirement, because I need to change my life and do some other things.
This has been, I guess, on some level, and maybe this I can say this now, and I wouldn't have said it months ago, but an exhilarating experience. I have probably lived more in the last 11 months than I have lived in the entire 17 other years that I've been a judge. But also, though, on other levels, though, I am as traumatized by this as any other person who's experienced it. And I know that I suffer from the effects of it in terms of being traumatized by it. It is like a funeral that never ends. Every day we get up and we go to the funeral, and we never get to the repast. It's just like that thing that just won't end. And sometimes I just want it to go away. I lost everything like everyone else did, and I'm trying to regain all of that I lost.